So tagging it on your Twitter. So if you want to retweet it back out or send it to your friends or anything like that, you're more than welcome to. But yeah, it's going to be on your Twitter account. We are live right now. Oh man, I'm ready for this episode. I've been waiting to break down this last little set of Washington football team games. You know, like just this lineup of all NFC East teams back to back to back to back for a little playoff run. I'm kind of excited to actually jump into it and go through it all.
It's amazing how they did us with the schedule, though. Like when this schedule came out and just looking at the back half, I was like, man, I've never seen anything like this. It's insane.
Yeah, all NFC East teams, right?
Yeah, all NFC East, and it's like back to back to back to back. We play the Giants early on in the season. What, week 2, I think it is, and then we play all the rest of our NFC East games in this little stretch at the back end of the season. It's crazy.
The Giants actually have 3 out of their last 4 games, but not the last, 4 to 5 games or whatever it is.
Yeah, I feel like they did that with a lot of. If we actually looked at a lot of the divisions, I think it's pretty common this year, which is ridiculous. But yes, that's what happened.
It's not quite as heavy, but it is up there. So what do we have on the docket today? We're doing the best defense, the best secondaries, right? And it's talking about if the Giants are the best secondary in the NFL, or if there's another one.
Right. Which we give a little bit of a teaser to last week, if you're paying attention to the Logan Paulson episode. And Mark had brought up some interesting points in some of his teaser tweets, but we'll hit that in a little bit.
Dude, those like little clips and everything were awesome that you put together, Mark. Like, kudos to you, man. You crushed it with those.
Thanks for showing me how.
All right, Ryan, you ready to kick this episode off?
Yeah, let's kick it off. Let's get into it. So, all right, everyone, welcome to another edition of Washington Intervention. I'm your host, Ryan. You can find me over on Twitter at WhatGibbsFF. And we have a really exciting show for you tonight. I'm joined by my co-host, Chase Vernon and Mark Crouchick, as well as our special guest for the evening, Hutchinson Brown, who is our favorite young fantasy football analyst in the game. We're super excited to have you on. Love the work that you're doing. Want to be as supportive as we can in any way because, I'm jealous that I didn't start off when I was young. I started when I was in like 5th grade, my first fantasy football draft, and wish I had the foresight like you did to get up into it. So let's kick it over to Hutchinson real quick. I just want to give an opportunity for you to shout out where everyone can find you, pump your site a little bit, and let us know a little bit how you got into it.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. Super pumped to be here. Super pumped to talk about some awesome content today. Super pumped to talk today. So you guys can follow me on Twitter at TYFMNFL. You can find my podcast, the Young Fantasy Mind Football Podcast, pretty much any major platforms you listen to podcasts. And then you can find my website, theyoungfantasymind.com. You can find my podcast over there. You can find my rankings over there. And you can find my first and ever article over there, where I look at the fantasy football outlook for Jalen Hurts. More articles will be coming in, but that was my first one I posted about a week ago, so go check out the website for that. But that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it, what I do.
Love it, man. Are you a Giants fan? Is that what I heard?
No, Eagles.
Oh, Eagles. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, man, real quick, just because, it's pretty intriguing that you got into it at such a young age. Who's been kind of your biggest support system as you've started getting this going? I think I saw a tweet the other day that your pops had gotten you tickets to the Fantasy Football Expo over in Cleveland. So how'd you kind of get motivated to get started?
I mean, honestly, it was kind of just, I started playing fantasy football when I was like 5th, 6th grade. Around that age, like 12, 13 years old. This is my 3rd year playing fantasy. My cousin showed it to me, and I just really fell in love with it. I was pretty good at it. Like, I won a couple of championships my first 2 seasons. I really, really liked it. So I started researching how to make a podcast, and I was like, this is actually not very hard. Like, I could totally do this. So I started researching what kind of equipment I should use. My dad helped me out a lot with that because he was actually a prior musician when he was younger, so he's like pretty much a master of all things audio. So he helped me build like this entire setup with like the lights and the backgrounds and the microphones and all that kind of stuff. And he just kind of helped me out with that. But I didn't really have like an inspiration to start, but I've always aspired like some great analysts in the industry like Liz Loza, JJ Zachariason, Love the fantasy footballers. Can't get enough of their content. But to start the podcast, no one actually really inspired me. It was kind of just like me kind of figuring it out on my own.
That's awesome, man.
Really cool.
Self-motivated. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Love seeing someone get into it at such a young age. Like I said, that's really great. So we'll kind of give everyone a lowdown real quick. We're going to be going through all of the NFC East's loaded schedule for the Washington football team, weeks 14 through 18. It feels really weird to say week 18, man. I still can't get used to it. It's bizarre, but I like it. Yeah. But this stretch is going to have a lot of really big, major divisional and playoff implications for the NFC's teams. Hopefully, Washington football team in the thick of it at that point, and hopefully that's us kind of sealing the deal that back half of the season. But before we get into it, just pass it around real quick. Chase, to you, if you want to just let everyone know where they could find you really quickly, and then hit Mark.
I'll tell you what, instead of me promoting the whole thing, I promote it at the end. Just go check us out on youtube.com/fantasyintervention and make sure to hit subscribe. Once again, that's youtube.com/fantasyintervention. Hit subscribe. For the Washington football team show, we will be going there live every Monday at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. We were doing 2 different Facebook groups. Instead, we're going to be going to YouTube from here on out. So go check it out, youtube.com/fantasyintervention.
Nice. And you can find me on Twitter, @MarkCrom.
Love it. Short and sweet, man. Love it. All right, so let's jump right into it, man, because I really want to talk about the Cowboys and Dallas. It's a unique team because I feel like they were so banged up last year. They really are our start to that stretch of brutal NFC East games. So we have Dallas at home in week 14, and we travel down to Dallas in week 16. So I'm going to start with Chase real quick. Like, how scared are you of the Dallas Cowboys offense? When Dak's been healthy, they've been pretty tough to stop. They put up some really big fantasy points, which we'll get into in a little bit. But what are you thinking about that offense? And is the defense improved enough to, make a run at this division? They were the worst, that Dallas has probably had in a very long time this last season. Do you think that Dallas is a main player in the NFC East?
So the Dallas Cowboys have one of the most dynamic offenses in the NFL, right? Like I expected it to happen last year. They were far and away one of the best, passing teams out there. I mean, even Zeke, who had a rough year last year, was able to catch the ball and make things happen. Meanwhile, Washington, we struggled with, a lot of different, explosive plays, and we always have. We've been terrible over the past, I don't even know how long, since Sean Taylor, essentially, at covering these deep balls and preventing big play opportunities. So as we sit there, we move forward and we look at Dallas, nothing's really changed for them except for they got healthier, in comparison from last year. So a lot of people are fading this Dallas Cowboys team, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me because they were projected to be one of the best offenses last year. Once again, nothing changed. You have CeeDee Lamb coming into his second year, Amari Cooper, getting more used to this offense. Oh, speaking of, the offense is now in their second year so that the teams understand how to play it. And I mean, if this offense, especially the offensive line in particular, can stay healthy, a lot of these NFC East teams are going to have some trouble, stopping these Cowboys. The issue is, once again, staying healthy and also Zeke protecting the ball. I mean, Zeke, he was not able to do so last year, and it got into his head, and you could see it affected his play, down the stretch, especially in the bigger games and the games that he had multiple turnovers in. So sitting there and looking at it, the Dallas Cowboys are definitely a team to be reckoned with. However, their defense
terrible,
is their
man.
weak spot. It is one of the worst defenses in the NFL. They still have not been able to fix it. And the thing was, if they would have just let Amari Cooper walk instead of, re-signing him to a bigger contract, they could have re-signed Byron Jones. They could have re-signed who was
Malik
it?
Collins.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous, like how they chose one wide receiver and still drafted CeeDee Lamb over solidifying this defense. So I believe that they can be beat. I believe Washington can't stop them. However, we have to limit the big playability, and it all starts with that secondary.
Well, don't forget who was going to get that receiver that they re-signed. I mean, we were really close to locking up Amari Cooper, which would have been scary opposite Terry McLaurin. So, I think part of it went into keeping him out of the division and stuff like that. But they were historically bad last year. I mean, just a quick look at that defense. They gave up a team record 473 points last season and the second most yards they've ever given up in team history. And you start going through that secondary, it's got a lot of holes, and I kind of was thinking they were going to look to address that during the draft. I know they went the Micah Parsons route and everything, but they were lining up like Trevon Diggs from Bama, Stephon Diggs' brother, C.J. Goodwin, and like very little depth behind those guys. So they still haven't done a lot, to your point, to fix that defense, which was just historically terrible. So I think Dak coming back, they're going to need everything they can get full power from that offense. But Mark, how about you? What are you thinking about Dallas?
The problem with this is, yes, they're in a second year with McCarthy, but they fired their defensive coordinator. Anytime you go and you transition coordinators, transition schemes, it's 2 years at a minimum before you actually get the personnel in place. They took Parsons, great pick. He's a stud if all goes well, but they changed schemes and they basically take Van Der Esch off the field, who's one of their best players. So now they have that offset look. They have Randy Gregory as their edge guy and Lawrence, but they're running 3 defensive tackles that are not good. Their secondary's very weak, but I will say they did go young. I mean, you can't really hate it. They're going to need a miracle out of Gregory and Lawrence, but everything is very young in the secondary. They took the corner in the second round, which I like. But the big thing with this game is it's week 14. The Cowboys will not stay healthy on offense. I'm not saying Dak's going to get hurt again, but Tyron Smith cannot play a 17-game season. He cannot. His body hasn't stayed healthy in how many years now? 3, 4?
And he's getting up there in age, right?
They did nothing to address the depth on the offensive line, and I think that's going to be their biggest downfall this year. It's going to be their line again.
They actually lost players on the line.
Yeah. But, I mean, they lost their center. He retired. Right? But they got the kid Biadiage, or however you pronounce that last name.
Nailed it.
No clue.
Yeah. He's a solid football player. I think he steps in just fine. But, again, the depth is not there at all. I don't think – I think their line is going to be the downfall. Not the weapons, not Dak. It's going to be the line.
And Tyron Smith, he turns 31 this season, and that's an old 31 because he's been around the league. He was like the youngest person in that draft class, I think, when he came out. And then him and Lyle Collins, I mean, they combined for like 2 games last year. They were really, really banged up before Collins had that season-ending hip surgery. So I think they ended up the season with like 2 former undrafted free agents and Terrence Steele and Brandon Knight. I don't think either of those guys were drafted when they had come out. So it was a week. So you talk about like that depth and like some of the big firepower that they have, signing a guy like Dak, signing a guy like Amari Cooper long-term, locking up some of the bigger names on defense. But like what has been the result of that has been that lack of depth that we see that you talked about on the defensive line, the offensive line.
Hey, I want to see what Hutch has to say, because Hutch, you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, right?
No. Yeah, so I am an Eagles fan. Just letting you know again. I keep trying to not say this team. I keep not trying to say this team is going to great. I keep not trying to say this team is going to be great because I'm always thinking from a fantasy perspective. And from a fantasy perspective, this team's going to be fantastic because it's a bad defense, with awesome offense. They're going to put up tons of points. Everybody's going to be awesome. But from a real life NFL standpoint, this defense is really just weak. They have a couple players that I actually like. I really like Trevon Diggs' potential this season. Yep. I like what we saw from him last year. I like Micah Parsons a lot. He's a stud. I still like DeMarcus Lawrence. I think he could be fine. But yeah, it is very weak in terms of like there's just no depth like at all. I feel like on this defense there's no depth and it's pretty weak. They're gonna be probably a bottom 5-ish defense in the league. I don't know if they're gonna do what they did last season, but they're gonna be a bottom 5 defense and it's gonna be pretty rough. So, but on the offensive side of the ball, it's just going to be tons of points. Like you have Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Dak Prescott, Zeke Elliott. I think Zeke Elliott has it. I love Dak Prescott coming back off this ankle injury. I still think he's going to be totally fine. And it's just their offense is just going to carry them past defenses, and it's going to be. I think they're going to be right around a 10-win team. I think they're going to be fine. It's just that defense is not going to take them anywhere. It can't take them to a Super Bowl or an NFC Championship. But I think they'll make the playoffs this season.
So let me ask,
Hutch, wait, Hutch, I'm definitely going to clip out that little segment where you called Dallas weak like 5 times in a row, that is getting clipped. Just saying. You might catch some heat for that. They're weak. They're weak. They're weak.
The defense, man. The defense.
But they are.
Really
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Nothing
Love
there.
You're right, though. There is nothing there.
There's nothing there.
Let me ask you, man, because you are someone that's into fantasy football, so I want to get your opinion on this from a fantasy perspective. What are you seeing from Zeke Elliott? Do we get a return to form for him? Are we going to see more of the guy that ended up, 14th overall in PPR last year and looked like he was finally showing those signs of wear and tear at the end of the season? Or is this going to be the guy that is like, back into that top 3 or 4 running back that's pretty consistent season in and season out and can be relied on to be your RB1 on your team?
Yes, he's my RB4 in my fantasy football rankings, youngfantasymind.com. Go check that out. You can find my rankings over there. But yeah, he's my RB4. And here's the reason why. There are 2 things that happened last year. Number one, obviously the Dak injury. And before the Dak injury, those first 5 weeks, top 5 running back, he was a stud. He was the guy you wanted him to be. He was awesome for your fantasy team. He was right there. Even with the fact that they had to pass like 40 to 50 times a game, like they were passing so much, and he was still getting a good workload, getting good doing good efficiency. And remember, guys, I don't like people saying he's going to break down because he's only 25.
Yep.
It's not like he's a 27, 28-year-old running back. It's not like he's been in the league for 8 years. He's 25 years old. He's fine. He's had the workload for like 3-4 years, right? He's only been in the league for like 3-4 years. He hasn't been in the league for like a crazy long time. And he's going to be fine. This offensive line fell apart last year. He had an injury-riddled season. Just forget about it. It's okay. Running backs get hurt. Running backs have bad seasons. I would say I would be very comfortable with him as my RB1, and I'm very comfortable saying that he's the top 5 back.
And it's funny you mentioned the age because, like everyone's fading Zeke like he is banged up and too much wear on the tires. But you see Christian McCaffrey, who same age group, right?
Yeah, he's 24.
He's the number 1 overall fantasy running back in most people's boards. So it's
like
funny.
No one's really competing with Christian McCaffrey at number 1. I mean, I can't say I have anybody else besides Christian McCaffrey at number 1 because it's Christian McCaffrey. But Zeke is literally only a year older, and people are like freaking out. And Christian McCaffrey has had major injuries in his career. He's been an injury, not prone, but he's had his past with injuries. And even last season, he had like 4 different injuries last season.
Quad, shoulder, everything.
It was so frustrating for fantasy managers because it wasn't like an Saquon Barkley ACL tear where you can be like, okay, just drop him. He's done for the season. You kept holding out hope for him that he would start. And it never happened. Like, it just never happened for him. And it was super frustrating. And he's still the number 1 overall pick. So I'm fine with that. But Zeke is being very unvalued right now.
Real quick, I mean, we just saw, we've seen his attempts per game drop significantly. They went from 2017, 24.2 down to 20.3 the following year, 18.8. Last year, he only had 16.3 attempts. Meanwhile, his receptions per game, they stayed relatively similar, but it wasn't obviously great with only 3.5 receptions per game. Does that workload usage concern you at all? Or do you think he actually will get back to it? Does Tony Pollard actually cut into it? What are we thinking over there, Hutch?
I don't think Tony Pollard cuts in very much. I think he cuts in like a few carries a game, like a change of pace back.
Good
but
man.
I think it's good. I think the carries have gone down because they've slowly handed the game, the offense to Dak Prescott. They've let him cook. They've let him run the offense because their defense is not good anymore. They can't be a ground and pound team when you're behind by 10 points every game. You can't really run the ball when you're behind every game. You're going to have to pass. So Dak is leading this team, but Zeke is going to get plenty of work to be a fine top 5 back.
And here's what people don't realize, and you hit on it like spot on early on, right? He was the number 3 fantasy back in PPR leagues, averaging 22.3 points per game before Dak got hurt. And you also mentioned that they spread the ball around, but he still gets usage. I mean, at that time when he was the number 3 back, at the same time, Amari Cooper was the number 8 ranked PPR wide receiver, and CeeDee Lamb was the 11th at 17.8 and 17.1 points per game.
And Dak Prescott was like on pace for 6,000 passing yards. He was the QB1. He was awesome.
Yep. Yeah. And then you go to the fact that like Zeke fell to the 20. He was like 24th among running backs the rest of the season. But you saw Cooper and Lamb both fall off. They were the 22nd and 35th among wide receivers after Dak got hurt. But no one's fading them. Everyone's fading Zeke for some reason. So I don't get it. I'm with you, man. I still think he's an RB1. I have him in a top 5 RB for myself as well. I don't understand the hate, but
yeah, I just don't get it. It's not like he's 27. That's the biggest problem for me. It's not that he's 27. He's 25. Like, he's 25 years old. Once running backs get to that 26, 27, then you could start worrying, like, for dynasty values, because I play a lot of dynasty now. And once running backs get that 26, 27, that's when you want to start worrying about the cliff coming and you want to start selling them. But Zeke is still 25. He's not there yet. So I'm just going to – Zeke is fine.
I'm with you, man. So
I think Todd Gurley – we can move on after this. I'm going to add one more comment. And I think Todd Gurley just, put a lot of fear into people's souls, essentially, because his cliff came so quickly. Same thing with Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, but
that was like a devastating
injury.
Yeah.
So,
that was like one of the worst injuries like we've ever seen in football. Like,
Melvin Gordon's in the same boat, though, right? Melvin Gordon's in the same boat. I swear he didn't actually deal with injuries. I mean, he dealt with injuries from time to time, but, his whole thing was holding out, and yet he fell off almost immediately as well. The reality is running backs on second contracts, right? They will end up getting cut within a short amount of time, and you don't know if they're going to actually see another roster, following the year that they get cut. Sure, you can end up getting one more year out of him, but what does his value become after that? Now, I know we're not a fantasy football show, so I don't want to dive too much into that. But
sorry, I'm cursing the show into like a
no, you're good. You're good, man. No worries. No worries. I'm on board with you, and I could talk to you about this all day long. We could talk for 8 hours about it. But.
Yeah, someone just dropped in the comments like David Johnson and Le'Veon Bell too, and it's spot on. I think that's where you starting to. I think people are starting to get nervous around that like 26, 27 season, to your point, and But back to real football, I think I do think Zeke plays a prominent role in that offense again. I don't think Tony Pollard's really going to take that much. People. It's funny. People were talking about how much more explosive Tony Pollard looked at the back couple weeks of the season than Zeke Elliott did. It's because Zeke had a really bad calf injury. It sapped him of all his explosiveness. So it's funny how people all of a sudden think Tony Pollard is this stud and better than Zeke Elliott, and now he's going to eat into all the carries. And I think he's a talented backup, but he's a backup to Zeke to me.
Yeah, and Zeke is like, I don't really usually pay attention to like NFL workouts, because breaking news, if you don't know, all NFL players work out and they're all pretty athletic people. But Zeke looks unbelievable. And the coaching staff has been replying, coaching staff has been saying he looks explosive, he looks very strong, he looks like the most fit he's ever been in his life. And Tony Pollard with a workhorse role, like that 40-yard touchdown run saved his game. Like otherwise he'd be like at 2 yards per carry. Like he would have been bad. He's not built for that workhorse role. It's kind of like Chase Edmonds. A lot of people say, oh, Chase Edmonds hype. Sorry, I'm driving off a little bit. But yeah, I'm driving off a little bit. Let's go back to what we're talking about.
So I'll say one thing real quick to the workout point. We heard the same thing, and we saw lots of images of Dwayne Haskins looking really fit last year and in the best shape of his life, and got rid of that kind of like baby fat that he was carrying. Coming out, that's what they were calling it, and going to like a 6-pack and stuff like that. And it's like, all right, you know what? To your point, NFL players are in good shape, and
NFL players are in good shape.
It doesn't matter.
It's just a thing.
So let's do a quick little round table. I mean, we got 2 games against the Cowboys, and Mark, I'll start it with you. Where do you see us going with them from a win-loss perspective? Do you think one team sweeps the other? Is it a split? What are we going here with Dallas?
I'm going split.
We're winning the home or the away game?
The home game, because I'll be there.
I like it.
Oh, God.
Chase, what about you?
So I'm going to say that we win both games, but honestly, I feel like it's like 60-40 on the game or in Dallas. I think that our defense can end up shutting them down. Meanwhile, our offense is explosive enough now to where we can actually overcome that. It's very, very close for that game in Dallas, but I'm still think that we end up taking both. And that's not even like a homer pick. That's just, the way that I was viewing and the things I was checking out. And the fact the offensive line is still so beat up. I don't know if their offensive line can handle our defense and our front seven, because it's just going to be vicious, man. It's going to be vicious. At the end of the season. Oof. No, go ahead. I just thought about the last thing I wanted to add in there. But yeah.
I think I'm going to shock you guys a little bit here. I'd say Washington sweeps them 2-0.
All right.
Yes.
You can come back to the show whenever you want, man.
I'm very confident in the Washington defense, and I'm very confident in the Washington offense. I'm very confident in Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel. I'm very confident in Tony Gibson and Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'm confident in this Washington football team. I think they take the division this year. That sounds great for you guys. But yeah, I think they sweep Dallas 2-0.
You know what? I'm gonna agree with you, and here's why. And we talked about it, right? Like that depth of the offensive and defensive lines for the Cowboys is not there. And when you're rolling out a defensive line as deep as ours is, and you got that interior pressure with Ioannidis and Settle and Payne and Allen, you could rotate
Young's
those guys in. What's that?
Chase Young's a Hall of Famer too. I'm calling it now.
I love it. I don't want to jinx it, so I'm going to knock on wood, but that's why I'm not buying a Chase Young jersey. I'm not going to do that to him.
Yeah, that's the only thing I have to do is just avoid buying a jersey. And
Sorry, guys, I already did it.
No, come on, dude.
Oh man,
You know you were cursed with it too, right? Like it's like you know it.
Nah, I bought it last year.
Okay, all right. That makes me feel better. But yeah, I'm with you. I think we sweep the Cowboys, and I think we're gonna have one really big shootout game with them, and I think we're gonna have one that's a little bit lower score of a game, but still, I could picture some like bad weather turf game at home. But yeah, I think we're gonna sweep the Cowboys there.
honestly, if we played Dallas in Dallas early in the season, I'd probably pick Dallas, to be honest with you. I think that us playing later in the season gives us a little bit of an advantage, especially with Tyron Smith, being as injury prone as had been, not being able to finish seasons. Lyle Collins been dealing with injuries. Like I would have picked Dallas if we played at Dallas earlier in the season.
Interesting. Yeah, and you talk about that 18-game schedule. Like depth is more important than ever. And damn, like Mark, I'm going back, and you mentioned when's the last time he played a full season? It's 2015. That's a long time ago. Like he's been in the league since 2011. That's you talk about wear and tear on the tires. Like that's wear and tear on the tires, and he's had a lot of surgeries too.
Hey, Hutch. Shane's a Washington football team fan, just like you, man.
what?
Shane is a Washington football team fan, just like you, bro.
Yep. God.
You're gonna like make these little clips, aren't you?
Yeah.
So then we go to Mr. Rock, Paper, Scissors, Shoot when we go into play Philly weeks 15 and 17. I love like hearing that off-season stuff with Nick Sirianni and like how that was like he liked to see the competitiveness of the players with Rock, Paper, Scissors, Shoot and all that.
Oh my God, that was so dumb.
So dumb, but
It was so dumb. It was so funny though. It was so funny.
It's going to be interesting here, and I'm gonna rip off some names here for some Eagles receivers since 2015, just to show how much they've struggled. But you got Riley Cooper, Josh Huff, Dorial Green-Beckham, Mike Wallace, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Jalen Reagor. The list really goes on, and I guess the question I want to kick off, and Mark, I'll start with you, man.
Ooh.
Is have the Eagles finally figured out their wide receivers? I mean, 2016 to 2018. And didn't take any wide receivers rounds 1 through 3. You see them go J.J. Arcega-Whiteside in 2019 in round 2, Jalen Reagor in 2020 round 1, Devonta Smith in round 1. Like, do they finally have those wide receivers figured out?
No. I love Devonta. He would have been my number one last year. I loved him. Still do. Jalen Reagor went to TCU. I don't have to say any more. And Fulgham's just a fantasy story. I don't think he's that guy.
I don't think so.
We'll see. Yeah, we will absolutely see. I don't like Hurts. I think Ertz is gone. So I think
Ertz is a waste of targets.
Oh, get out.
Let me tell you,
a waste of targets.
I want to hear Hutch's perspective because honestly, I hate the Eagles this year. I think they're trash.
Oh no!
So let's hear your perspective first.
Ooh, I think they're a below average team, but I don't think they're going to be absolute garbage. I like Jalen Hurts brings a lot to the table with his legs. That's why everyone's hyping him up for fantasy because of his legs in the rushing game. But that just brings a whole new dynamic to the offense. It opens up the running lane for Miles Sanders and just opens up the passing game because everyone's going to have to worry about Jalen Hurts running the ball for a touchdown. Like everybody's gonna have to worry about the defense. Is gonna have to worry about that 24/7. And with these weapons, with Dallas Goedert, Jalen Reagor, I still have hope in Jalen Reagor. To be honest with you, I still think he could be solid. Dallas Goedert, I think, could be a potential like superstar tight end breakout this season. And then Devonta Smith, a guy who I adore, and he would have been my number one receiver in this draft class before the Jamar Chase explosion. So, but Devonta Smith is still, I think, an elite talent, an elite receiver. He plays bigger than he really is if you watch his film. Devonta Smith is going to be a superstar, but I really like the way this offense is looking. This defense is solid. It's definitely getting up there in age, but it's still solid. The defensive line is still there. Darius Slay has still got it. He's still fine. And the linebackers, I don't know what to say. It's embarrassing. It just completely.
Hutch. Before we get into linebackers, I want to bring in somebody who's going to support you on everything you said prior to this. Maybe he'll support you on the linebackers as well. But welcome in Shane.
Yeah, the linebackers have been trash for Hutch longer than Hutch has been alive. By like 3.
Oh my God.
They don't value the position as an organization, and that goes back to, honestly, no bullshit to the. Oops, sorry, Hutch is here. I gotta watch my mouth. That goes back to the 80s. Even before I really remember, they don't value the position at all, and you can tell by the capital that they invest in it.
They don't.
Yeah.
They haven't had a good backer since Jeremiah Trotter.
Oh,
And
so Alonzo. Hello.
Who?
Kiko was 1 year.
Oh, Jesus. And he was trash when he was in Philadelphia. Him and DeMarco. What the hell was his name?
DeMeco Ryan or whatever?
Yeah, like they both came here and had the worst seasons of their career. And then we're like, all right, we'll be all right if we just leave here. But no, Hutch was spot on about Devontae. I think he's definitely going to be a very good wide receiver for the team. Rager's probably better suited as a 2 than the 1. So
now that he's in the slot, now he's working in the slot, he's going to be much better. He's not an outside guy. Like, it's just clear when you watch him play, he's not an outside guy. He's going to work in the slot, and I think he's going to be great. He can take the top off the defense. I like Jalen Reagor a lot for fantasy, actually, as a sleeper. But, yeah, I think Jalen Reagor still has some potential. I really like him a lot.
Yeah,
it's funny. Going into the offseason last year, I mean, your coaching staff was talking about him like he was an alien. I think they actually called him like an alien, right? Like when just dropped off from another planet and like tearing up, everything in training camp last year. And then he kind of fell flat, Reagor. And I liked him coming out of college too. But Hutch, I got a question for you, man. When you saw the Eagles snag Devonta Smith in front of the New York Giants, what was your draft reaction?
Oh my goodness. It was so miraculous because I thought they were going to trade up and draft Justin Fields. I was 99% positive because Justin Fields was still on the board. And I was so positive that they were going to grab him because I was pretty positive that the Eagles were somehow, some way going to draft a quarterback in the top 2 rounds. Like, I thought it was just going to happen. I feel like they weren't confident in Jalen Hurts, but I guess they were. They didn't really get a quarterback at all. So trading up to number 10 to get Devonta Smith right in front of the Giants, because 100% the Giants were taking him. There's no doubt in my mind if Devonta Smith fell to the Giants were going to snag him there. But I love that they traded up only 2 spots just to get their guy, make sure Jalen Hurts has a weapon, and they didn't really do that for Wentz. They could have traded up 5 spots to draft Lamb, and they didn't. They drafted up a couple spots, grabbed Devonta Smith. I really like it.
Yeah, it's funny. There were a lot of draft rumors that the Giants were going to take Jamin Davis if we hadn't taken him, and he fell down to them. So it's kind of like the NFC East just got in their way. Yeah. Now, let me ask you, like, Shane, while we got you on here, sorry, go ahead.
The Eagles would have traded up for Jalen Reagor last year. They liked him that much. It's just that once they got him into the building, they were like, okay, all we want you to do is just run straight and fast. Yeah, it's like, guys, I can do a lot more stuff. Like, do you want to let me do that? And they're like, no, just run that way. Like, that's the only play we're going to call for. Just go that way. And he's like, but your quarterback is terrible. Deep passes. Have you seen? No, he's just going to. Okay, all right. I'll run out there. And part of it is they were burned by J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, or however you say his name, the season before, because they were like, all right, we're going to teach this guy every position on the football field. And his response to that was, well, I'll learn none of them. And they didn't want that to happen with Reagor, so they went completely the other way. I do like him out of the slot. I like him much better with Sirianni than Doug Peterson. Peterson wasn't a creative head coach. kind of he reminds me of Chip Kelly a lot. Like people thought Chip Kelly was innovative, and I'm like, no, he just runs the plays fast. Like that's not innovation. He's like he just runs to the line. Like, and that was Peterson. Like, you know, he made his bones off of the Super Bowl play that he didn't even call. Nick Foles told him to call.
Yeah,
and he made his bones off of going for it a lot on fourth down. And people are stupid. People correlate like, well, if he goes for it on fourth down a lot, he must be innovative. And you're like, no, you must not watch football then, because if you did, you wouldn't say that. But anyway,
he wasn't innovative.
No.
So real quick, like everything that we saw right from the Eagles, it's like, you know, people don't have faith that Jalen Hurts is going to be the quarterback moving forward. But yet they traded away Carson Wentz, right? They ended up signing Joe Flacco, who whatever, like that's literally whatever. They did not draft a quarterback.
Elite.
I mean, what in the world? Like, why do people still not have faith that Jalen Hurts? You know, to Hutch's point, we'll start out with Hutch. Like, why do we not have faith that Jalen Hurts will be the quarterback moving forward, that they're going to draft a quarterback next year? I understand that he had 52% completion percentage. I understand that he turned the ball over, had, what was it, like 19 or something insane when it came to fumbles and interceptions, maybe it was 14. Why do we not have faith that Jalen Hurts is going to be the quarterback moving forward for the Eagles?
It's just because of just the concern of the Eagles passing offense, like if it's going to perform next season. And Jalen Hurts is kind of like a second rounder player. He didn't really have too much investment in him. And the Eagles have, as long as Carson Wentz doesn't screw something up, the Eagles have 3 firsts next year, if I'm not mistaken. They have 3 firsts next year, and they could be a really bad team. And the picks they have could also be pretty high up there. So they could definitely take a quarterback in the first round. And that's why I'm usually avoiding them in dynasty leagues. I'm just like not sure, because if they were to take a quarterback, Jalen Hurts is unsellable. No one's going to have Jalen Hurts on their team. Like, it's just not possible, because that proves that they were disappointed in Jalen Hurts and they were disappointed in the way he played. There might be reports saying they're all in on him, but they're saying all in for 2021. They're giving him the opportunity for 2021. That does not mean they will not try to replace him in 2022. If he underperforms this season, I feel like his career in Philly could be done.
Yeah, we were all in on John Beck back in the day, so I've heard the all-in coach speak before, and I don't trust it for a hot second. No, you're spot on with Hurts, and I think one of the big thing with him is like he is a phenomenal runner. He's a huge asset to the run game. He is never going to be your accurate, consistent passer. That's just not who he is, and I think
like a Lamar Jackson or like a Kyler Murray, but he just brings such a different dynamic to the offense. Like, it just turns the offense on its head, and like it gives defenses nightmares, because like you have to worry about him throwing to someone, him running, him throwing to the running back, him handing off to the running back. You just worry about so many different things.
Him fumbling, him throwing to the other team.
Yeah, I just don't think he's not Kyler Murray. I think he does, give that athletic ability. But
good. I'm not saying he's as good as a running quarterback as they are, but he's that style, because I think he gets 700 plus rushing yards this season. Kyler had about 800 last season. I think he gets somewhere in that range. He's a top 5 rushing quarterback. It's just something you have to worry about as a defense, and it just takes the offense to a new level.
he's similar to my guy Taysom Hill.
Whoa.
I think the big question is, like, what's the Eagles' goal this year? Because they're in like a limbo right now where it's like, okay, are we looking for the future, or are we looking to win right now? Because Ertz should be gone. Ertz should be gone unless they're looking to win this season.
No,
Like,
literally,
what are they
Zach
doing?
Ertz, right? You're talking about Zach Ertz.
They don't need to do anything with that Zach Ertz right now. So there's
I literally wrote in my article, Jalen Hurts article, the wasting of targets of Alshon Jeffrey and Zach Ertz will not happen anymore. That's literally what I wrote in the article, because that's how anti-Jeffrey and Ertz I am. They absolutely were garbage last season. They should
hold on to Ertz.
They shouldn't be on a team. What? Go ahead.
Do you hold on to Ertz to give him the safety valve, to have him have 2 nice playmakers over the middle in Goddard and Ertz, and then also get that downfield, stretch the field kind of guys that Sirianni likes, and Rager and Devonta Smith? Do you keep him just for that reason, to see what you got in your young quarterback?
No, because when you throw him the ball, that's really throwing the ball to the ground. Like, it's useless. Like, Zach Ertz is a complete waste of space on the field. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'd much rather see them involve Miles Sanders in the passing offense at the expense of Zach Ertz. I mean, even if Miles Sanders is dropping too many passes,
he's not amazing, but he's fine.
No, he was. I mean, 2 years ago, he was running the best routes on the team. He was actually running like full on wide receiver routes and just breaking cornerbacks' ankles.
Yeah,
and you were like,
he was fantastic.
wow. Yeah. And then last year was last year. It was bad all around. Zach Ertz, they're going to get rid of him. It's just at this point, they're hoping someone gets injured somewhere and they can get anything of value for him.
Yeah, that's it.
Real
Otherwise,
quick, I do
want
to bring this point up. Like right now, the Eagles are kind of like in a limbo with their salary cap situation. They have pushed back like so many different contracts over the past few years in order to try and make room for their offensive line, for the defensive line, for Darius Slay, that they ended up getting to a point where they can't cut anybody. So over the next year or 2 years, they almost are in a situation where they have to win in order to do anything with their franchise, because if they cut a bunch of guys, they'll be left with millions on millions of dead cap space, which Washington football team fans are very used to seeing that happen year after year after year, where we get stuck with like 50 million dead cap space because we had to cut guys. Essentially, with Philly, they're in a very – what's up?
Sorry, I just see Faith in the chat.
Oh, what's up? Yeah, I love that. So sitting there and looking at it, like, you know, with the Eagles, they kind of are in a position where they almost have to go for a winning season over the next 2 years. And I think Jalen Hurts actually gives them that opportunity to do so, at least for this year alone.
They definitely have a winning record this season. I think they could have a 9-8 record this season. I hate saying 9-8. That sounds
so weird.
9-8 isn't a real number. 17 is not a right number.
It's not right. It's not right.
It's just weird. I think they could have a winning season this season if Jalen Hurts really takes that step.
And I think that they end up doing that, and I think that they end up making it above 500, because you can't be 500 anymore. They make it above 500 overall.
Wow, you can't.
Well, you can if you tie. You can tie.
Oh, you can.
You can go 8-8-1.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
You could.
So, but essentially, I think the Eagles end up slightly above that. They can make the wild card, once or twice in the next 2 years, and I think that could very easily happen. Meanwhile, you're looking at a significant rebuild in Philly come 2023, if I had to guess, depending on
that D-line's coming to an end soon.
It is. Same thing with the O-line.
Darius Slay is getting older. That offensive line is coming to an end soon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
2023 is a massive rebuild for the Eagles.
So, guys, let me ask one quick question here, because as we got two Eagles guys on, and you just touched on the offensive line, I just want to get your opinions on this one. Like, what are they doing at the tackle position, right? Because you got Andre Dillard coming back healthy, you got Lane Johnson hopefully coming back healthy, you got Jordan Mailata, who I really like, that Samoan player. He played professional rugby in Australia, 6'8", didn't play football till like 2 years ago. He did a great job stepping in last year, being that plug at tackle. What do you guys end up doing at tackle? Or do you shift Dillard to the inside? Do you play Mailata and Johnson at tackle? What do you think? What do you guys see?
The problem with Dillard is he can't play anywhere else but left tackle. So if he doesn't win that job, then you have a backup offensive lineman that can only play one position, which is, I don't know of any of offensive linemen in the league that you only have for one position. He didn't look great his rookie season. He didn't look bad. I mean, apparently he got stronger last offseason, and of course we didn't get to see it because he tore something. I don't even remember what, because every Eagle offensive lineman tore something
so bad
last summer.
Oh, man,
but the thing is, the fact that he can't play any other position, it shouldn't factor into it, but it could. Because Mailata, you could. Yeah, that's not how you say his name. Jordan, I'll just call him Jordan. You could at least swing him over to right tackle if you need to. You got to see what they want to do with that. I mean, if they're going to pick the best starting lineup, then it's probably going to be Jordan.
What's it, Mailata?
I almost pronounced that. I can't say two Tagovailoa. I'm not even trying that.
Wait, what about Brooks though? Brooks should be a major piece of this offensive line.
Brandon Brooks, yeah.
He's just got to stay healthy. His thing is when he's on the field, he's an all-pro.
Stay healthy. If all the pieces on that offensive line are healthy, I feel it's a top 5 offensive line.
Yeah,
right?
Last year, I mean, they went into they didn't have Brooks, they didn't have
Johnson a lot.
Johnson, yeah. I mean,
Dillard a lot.
They went into the starting season, with like 2 of their original linemen in the position where they were supposed to be. One of them, Jason Kelsey.
14 different combos through the season. Most
That's
in
a
the
lot.
NFL.
That's really bad at offensive line.
That's
like,
one almost every game.
That's pretty bad.
That's really bad.
Now, in a 17-game schedule, 14 out of 17 is not as bad, but it can still be bad.
It's still terrible.
Yes, awful.
It's still terrible.
Mark, do you have
Go ahead.
Mark, do you have anybody that you're looking at on that offensive line where you would wish Washington would just attack like crazy in the games we have coming up?
Obviously, the left side. Absolutely.
Dillon.
Yeah.
Yeah, they send Chase Young in there. Chase Young will rip apart anybody.
It's
on the
just
left
going to
side.
be it's all day long.
But Chase Young could have like 3 sacks against the Eagles. Like he could just rip them to shreds.
I put a $100 bet last year, week 1, that the Redskins or the football team would have 7 sacks. We actually had 8. So I think, yeah.
All right.
You guys gotta have. I gotta shout out. You guys have Jack Driscoll too, who's a Madison, Connecticut, a Hand High School guy from Connecticut, where Mark and I are, and he actually trained at Mangino Strength and Conditioning, which is where one of my good friends. And he's kind of turned that into a little bit of like a offensive lineman for high school. So it's pretty cool to see that coming out of a small place like that. But do a quick roundtable. I mean, what do you guys see us from from Washington's perspective with the Eagles? Like how do you see those 2 games shaking out? Mark, we'll start with you, man.
I think it's a sweep. I think that outside
Eagles
that,
are going to sweep us? No.
No.
So wait, it's 2 games against the Eagles, right?
Yeah.
2 games against Philly. Okay.
Outside of that defensive line, I think that defense is really weak. Yes, I know Slay he's still a solid football player, but I still think
not
there's
who he once was.
big gaps in that secondary as well.
So what are you trying to say? Avonte Maddox isn't a professional second cornerback in the league and should be playing in the slot?
He's a football player, but I'm not saying he's a good football player. Like
The weapons we've added is definitely going to take care of the Eagles.
I'll give you a one game. It's going to be a split. Look, it's a division game. Eagles offense is going to destroy Washington at least one of those weeks, or the other way around. Probably more likely the Eagles defense with Fletch.
Dude. You're trying to lie to yourself to make the Eagles
Yeah.
win. It's not gonna happen.
I don't.
It's not going to happen.
They have to win some games, right? They have to. They're not the Detroit Lions. They're not the New York Jets. They're a decent team, right? They should get 7 wins, and if they get 7 wins, I think one of them will be in the division. And if it's going to be in the division, I'm going to just take 1-on-1 splits against everybody except for Dallas, because there's no way they can keep up with Dallas's scoring.
So I think I'm going to say Washington wins week 15. Week 17, do you guys jump out to a lead again? And do you guys pull Jalen Hurts for us one more time?
That's what I was going to say. It's not Nate Sudfeld.
If they pull Jalen Hurts this year, that means the Eagles have locked up first-round bye, and all types of things have gone crazy in this season, and it'll be a good time.
Or they want to see the future of Nick Mullins.
Oh,
God.
Oh my
Jalen
God.
Hurts has turned the ball over a total of 6 times at this point, maybe 7 of that. And then Joe Flacco, they feel safe with Joe Flacco at that point. So, yeah, Joe Flacco's running that offense.
He's elite, man. They'll be fine.
Jesus. Okay.
All right, gents, I'm going to hop off. Hutch, it was good to meet you, dude.
Man.
Everyone else, I think I met you before. If not, good to meet you too. All right, later, guys.
Have a good one,
Later.
Shane.
Yeah.
All right. So hopping back, actually, you know what? I got one more quick question for Hutch, just as we're on like the fantasy football piece.
Wait. Hutch had a sweep, right?
What?
Yes.
Okay. Ryan, what did you have?
I had a sweep for us too, man.
Oh, I didn't. Wait. Oh, yeah. I said yes. I mean, I didn't actually officially say it, but yeah, they're gonna sweep Philly.
I'm a little concerned. Once again, this is very close with like Dallas's one at Philly for week 17. Really depends on how motivated Philly is.
I think that'll be closer because the Eagles are actually Eagles have a history like the last couple seasons being really good in December. Like they're really good down the stretch. If they're in the competition for this division, I think they could definitely take that game. But I don't know if they're going to be in competition for the division, because if they're not, they'll tank and they'll go for the best pick. But I think if they're in competition for the game, I think week 17 Philly will take it.
I'm going to go 1-1. I'm going to go 1-1 on this. I'm going to do a split. just
Yeah.
because I feel
I'm
like
gonna
I've
say
already
1-1.
taken.
I think they'll be in competition. Yeah.
Okay, so you're doing 1-1 as well. All right.
Yes, I'll do
I mean,
1-1.
Chase basically has the Redskins going, or the football team going undefeated this year, so he's got to
Yeah,
have
but-
some, they got to
Me?
lose some of the games.
I was gonna say I think I have us 15-2 right now. Like it's a
I
freaking
know.
mess.
Oh, you're Ryan up there.
We talked. I mean, that I just had a split. We just lost the game.
Oh my god. All right.
All right, so moving on, we go to the last week of the season, week 18, and it's Washington versus the New York Giants to end the season. And I kind of just have nightmares. I feel like they just like to destroy our playoff hopes every year, so I do get a little bit nervous of this game. But I want to start off real quick, and I want to hear what you guys think about Daniel Jones, because Gil Brandt just dropped an article this last week, and he called out the top 10 players that he thinks are likely to make the leap this season, right? And he included guys like Quentin Williams, Josh Allen of Jacksonville, Brian Burns, and Daniel Jones. So do we feel like this is the year Daniel Jones reaches the level play from his first round pedigree? And Hutchinson, we'll start with you. I kind of know where Chase is on this one, so we'll kick it over to you to start.
So I'm in on Daniel Jones. I think he's going to take the leap. I think he will, because I just like I'm a big Kenny Golladay fan. I'm really into Kenny Golladay. I love just him as a player, him as a talent. And like we saw some flashes from him before he had an injury-riddled season last season. So we could have seen the breakout as early as last season, but injuries got in the way. He also was bad from the start, so it might have not happened anyway. But like, remember, guys, we need to remember the highest guy in targets last season was Evan Ingram. The leader in yards was Darius Slayton. Like, there was nobody on this receiving core to trust. Now you have Kenny Golladay. And last season, Daniel Jones was actually number one in deep ball. Number one, according to Next Gen Stats. Number one in deep ball passing. Daniel Jones also, like, he had a lot of moments when he was fully healthy where he was starting to get rid of the ball, starting to throw it away, starting to realize, okay, the play's done, just get rid of the ball. He's making better decisions instead of chucking it downfield and inevitably throwing an interception or trying to keep it and then inevitably fumbling and losing the football. He's making better decisions. He now has a second straight season with the same coaches and coordinators. And now with Kenny Golladay added, I think it just takes it to a whole new level. I think he definitely has top 8 upside at the fantasy football at the quarterback position. It's still going to be a run-first team because Saquon is still the running back, and that just helps him even more with Saquon Barkley being the running back. Saquon Barkley is going to help him out, going to support him, keep defenses focused on Saquon, and it's going to help Daniel Jones out more. So I think Daniel Jones takes the leap this season. I want to hear what Chase thinks because Ryan was so obvious about it. I feel like he's going to say no.
His face explains it all.
Yeah, I think that looks like a
He's
no.
keeping himself on mute. There you go. I was like, he's keeping himself on mute. He doesn't even want to talk so bad.
I'm about to get ripped to shreds on my take, aren't I?
No, because I support you, so don't worry about it.
All right.
Go ahead, Chase.
We'll go against you, Chase.
All right. The reality is Daniel Jones is very, very inefficient. He had trouble finding open receivers on a regular basis. Yes, he completed downfield attempts because he essentially had to, and because they were in so much garbage time that defenses were in prevent. I actually just got a sheet from somebody who will not be named as of late, and I cannot wait to look up how many deep balls Daniel Jones attempted on 3rd and 4th down and in the 3rd and 4th quarter. I actually believe I can find that on RotoWire. So I will be looking that up as I talk. But sitting there and looking at it, when you have an inefficient quarterback such as Daniel Jones, and you have a play caller who struggles to, create open opportunities with rub routes and whatnot, it just never ends up well. And the reality is Daniel Jones was able to rush, and I think he ended up, I want to say it's like by week 10, he had 2 big rushing games.
Yeah, that's why I'm in on him for fantasy too, because the rushing takes him to that next level. But yeah, go on.
And that's great. So like those 2 rushing games he had, right? The 2 big games he had. I actually have it popping up right now. He ended up rushing
the 80-yard fall.
He had like an 80-yard run.
So, the turf monster got him. So in his 2 big games, he had 92 and 74 yards. That was by, I think, week 10 was when I did the study. I think he had actually 64 yards against Philly in week 10. But In the 2 games, we had 92 and 74 yards. That actually counted for more fantasy points than his passing prowess created in fantasy points up until that point. So essentially 2 games of rushing ended up putting more fantasy points than like 6-8 games of passing yards. He's not good, and he's not going to be a good quarterback. And if you end up calling plays close to line of scrimmage to increase his passing percentages, then guess what? It's going to hurt his rushing attempts because safeties can play close to the line of scrimmage and linebackers can play close to the line of scrimmage. Meanwhile, you sit there and you look at his efficiency. If he ends up passing downfield more often, Kenny Galladay especially, he's going to draw safeties back. Yes, Saquon Barkley can affect that efficiency and create more efficiency, better efficiency. And I love that. I love that for Daniel Jones.
He's only had 11 games with Saquon. Remember that. Saquon has never been really healthy. He's only had 11 games with him.
And he only had 1 game where Saquon, Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, and Golden Tate played in the same game. Maybe it was Evan Ingram. Either way, like he only had 1 game where they all played
Evan
together.
Ingram, not Darius Slayton. I mean, not Golden Tate.
Okay, yeah. So they only had 1 game where like 4 of his top playmakers actually played together. So that makes a lot of sense as well. But yeah, I can't hop on board with a player that's highly inefficient and honestly, like, just turns the ball over on an irregular basis. I mean, what was his fumble percentage? Like absolutely insane for actually like for a quarterback. Meanwhile, he is not accurate when it comes to his money throws. Meanwhile,
Sorry.
like he's not. No, you're
just
good.
ignore me talking to the chat.
You're yeah. So sitting there and looking at it, like you're not getting money throws from this guy. He needs players to be open in order to complete passes. Kenny Galladay can get open, but he's a contested catch guy. He goes 20 yards down the field, turns out and makes a jump ball catch in most occasions. Kenny Galladay is a major upgrade for this offense, and Kadarius Toney can get open in the short, yard situations. Saquon Barkley's back.
Monster.
Yeah. Oh, I love Kadarius Toney. I hated that it landed with the Giants. Meanwhile, you sit there and you look at this division that they're playing, you look at the schedule they're playing, and it's not a very forgiving schedule overall. Daniel Jones for me is a major fade. I think that he's going to outperform what he did last year very easily, like not even close. But like, what's he going to end up as quarterback 20, quarterback 22? Meanwhile,
but like, I don't understand fading a guy. Like, I'm going to go a little bit fantasy here, but he's being drafted as the quarterback 26 in fantasy. I don't understand why you fade that. Like, it's just a potential. Like, I admit the Daniel Jones breakout hype is definitely a little bit of a long shot. It's not like the CeeDee Lamb breakout or like an Antonio Gibson breakout. It's not like sitting right there in front of your face, but it's a little bit of a long shot. And at quarterback 26, why not take that shot? You're not going to have to depend on him in a 1 quarterback league. There's just no way you're depending on him. Even in a super flex league, if you're in a 12-team league, that's not even a QB2 you're drafting as. You're not going to have to depend on him in ever. Why not just take that shot? I don't really understand fading him.
So
maybe just like, not really taking the shot that often, not really believing, but just taking the shot is worth it.
So in a 1 quarterback league, you want massive upside, right? Because when you sit there and you draft for 1 quarterback leagues, whether it's dynasty or not, well, first off, if it's not dynasty, you're not going to be drafting them ever. But if it is dynasty, then you want players in 1 quarterback leagues who can actually be a top 8 quarterback, top 6 quarterback, top 5 quarterback, right? Like
Daniel Jones with the rushing ability. Look what Josh Allen did last year.
There's not enough efficiency, and there's also not going to be enough workload rate, especially with the defense improving. So for him to finish above, like Justin Herbert, like I could literally name 15 quarterbacks that even if Daniel Jones does double his production, he still would not finish above. So sitting there and looking at it, I don't want a player whose upside is going to be quarterback 14 in a single quarterback league, right? Especially like if it's sitting there and we're looking at dynasty and that's his upside. Meanwhile, his downside, which is an 80% more likely to hit, where he actually falls off completely, and they bring in a quarterback through free agency to compete with him in 2022. However, when it comes to him being a productive quarterback in this league, with him unable to limit his turnovers, with him unable to, increase his efficiency, it's going to mainly rely on the play calling and on these other players, making plays with inside of a new system with Kadarius Toney, with Kenny Galladay. And honestly, I'm sitting there and I'm looking at Daniel Jones as a player that was not drafted by this regime and could essentially be very, very easily replaced with 5 first and second round quarterbacks being drafted in this upcoming draft in 2022. I just don't want to invest in that. And for this year in particular, I just don't know if Daniel Jones is going to have it.
The only thing that's interesting about him is like, I feel like, to your inefficient point, Kenny Golladay is a perfect person to bring into that offense, right? He's at his best when he's winning in tight coverage, using his hands to win, and he's great in traffic. Like, I feel like he's a good fit for there. He's also a good fit for that deep threat, right? He's been great with jump balls, and I think that's what you made the point, Hutchinson, before about like number one as a deep ball thrower. That's what we saw at Duke, right? Like, coming out of college, you knew that Daniel Jones could chuck it downfield. You knew he had pretty good legs. His greatest downfall was always the poor decision making, though. So I don't know if a guy like Sam Darnold, if a guy like Daniel Jones, I don't know if they ever shake that. If you're throwing picks in college, it's tough to come into the NFL and then see the field better, right? The game gets quicker. They're throwing a lot more complex defenses at you. So, but the thing that I do like about Daniel Jones is I do think he's able to drive the ball downfield. I think they added a lot of weapons. I think Saquon Barkley helps that offense out tremendously. I'm kind of like with him. I don't hate him. I don't love him. I think he has an opportunity to succeed in this league. The Giants kind of scare me a little bit, but Mark, I'd kind of like to get your thought too on. I know you kind of like Daniel Jones a little bit coming out. Where do you think Daniel Jones lands?
Yeah, Daniel was my guy coming out. It wasn't a good class.
No,
but there's no excuses anymore. They have all the weapons in the world. They put a solid offensive line together.
This is definitely it. If he doesn't prove it this season, then no, he's done.
They have 2 first-rounders next year, so
yes,
he's definitely done. But I do think he wants to win. I do think the effort is there. Having Dwayne Haskins in the past, you don't have to worry about that. I think he can do it. I really do. The one thing that I said when coming out of college was he had great coaching at North Carolina.
Yep.
Great coaching. Duke, correct. Yes, sorry. I'm thinking Sam Howell already this year. But he had one of the best quarterbacks coach coming out of college. And the one thing that he did was he still made poor decisions.
Yep.
He still went the wrong places with the ball. And that's something that I don't think he can overcome at this point in time in his career. If he hasn't learned it now, when's it going to come?
The thing that's going to be interesting is, you mentioned the quarterback class, and Chase talked about potentially 5 or 6 first and second rounders, right? You just said the Giants have 2 first-round draft picks. Hutchinson, earlier in the show, you said the Eagles have 3 potential because they have that one that's conditional with
or a first.
Carson Wentz. Yep. So you're either going to get an extra second or an extra first. That's a ton of ammo for both teams to go up. So what scares me about this season is if Washington needs a quarterback coming out of this, and then Chase, I know we've hit this in other shows, you and I too, but if Washington needs a quarterback, they're going to be going up against 2 other teams in the division who probably need a quarterback too, and also have a lot more ammo to position themselves to go up and get one. So that's the one thing, like long-term success for Washington, that kind of has me a little bit nervous is what's our answer long-term at quarterback?
Right.
Because I think Fitzpatrick can last a couple of years. I think Fitzpatrick can last 2-3 years. Oh, I see Mark shaking his head. I think he's a good quarterback, and I think he's a good playmaker. But I just don't, because he's 38 years old. Like, he's not really, and he's always been kind of like the 1-year deal kind of guy. So I'm not sure exactly if he's the future. The future is definitely concerning, especially with what you said with the Giants and the Eagles having so many first-round picks coming in this draft. They could easily trade up over Washington and get somebody, especially because Washington is probably looking to win this season.
Yep.
Like, they have the roster to go. If Ryan Fitzpatrick, we see a great Ryan Fitzpatrick, which we normally do. Sometimes we see an off Ryan Fitzpatrick. Sometimes we see a good Ryan Fitzpatrick. If we see the good version of Ryan Fitzpatrick, I would not be too surprised if they went to the NFC Championship. I could see them going all the way there.
I would love it.
I could see them going all the way.
We talked about it, like, what do we do with the name if we actually have a good season and stuff like that. But you know what? I'll take that problem.
That hurts them because they're not going to have a top end pick.
Yep.
Because I don't see too many worlds where they don't have 10 wins. So they're going to be pretty down there in the rankings. They're not really going to have a top end pick. And it's going to be tough for them to really get a good quarterback because they don't have so much ammo like the Eagles or the Giants to trade.
Derek Carr.
That could definitely be a possibility.
Taysom Hill. We all have our guys.
Shut your
Yeah,
mouth.
all our guys here.
Brad
You still want
Johnson.
Jameis Winston.
What about Aaron Rodgers?
It's
Dude,
possible.
would-
we don't have a lot of ammunition for that, but it's possible.
He's going to be hosting Jeopardy.
I think he's going to be quarterback in the Broncos in a couple weeks. It's going to
That's
be
what I think
beautiful.
too.
Ooh. I just don't. I am projecting it like he plays for the Packers right now.
Same here.
When I do my rankings and my projections, I'm projecting that he plays for the Packers. So I have Devontae Adams ranked that way. I have Aaron Jones ranked that way. I have Aaron Rodgers ranked. I just ranked that way. I have them all ranked like Aaron Rodgers is going to play, but I'm not confident he is. It's just right now he's in Green Bay. He's still there. So I think he'll play because I think if he still stays in Green Bay, I don't see too many worlds where he sits out or he retires. I think he either gets traded or he plays.
I honestly think it's the first time that I felt like the Packers are going to budge with him saying that he was going to come and report on time. I do think he ends up getting moved before the season starts. I know that's not that hot of a take as what's going on now. I think Denver's a great place to land. And honestly, you guys, like, don't sleep on, and I know people are going to go nuts when I say this, but don't sleep on Washington. I mean, we have assets to move, and I feel like we've kept cap space open to facilitate a move like this. We've kept money on the side right now that we haven't used to extend guys that we need to extend. We haven't locked up a Jonathan Allen, and Mark's got his hand over his face, but I'm just going to say it. Don't sleep on it. And man, if we could put Aaron Rodgers with that defense and Terry McLaurin and the weapons we have and Gibson, forget it.
Yeah, that'd be a Super Bowl contending team. 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I just don't think like this. I like what you're saying. It's because I feel Aaron Rodgers is really pissed off this time. Like, I think he's really, really done. Like, I do think he is. But the Packers are not willing to budge. There's just no way. They still have a window to win. They have players getting up there in age. They have a lot of players in their prime. They are ready for a championship. They just need to keep Aaron Rodgers. And I feel like they're willing to pay a lot. I feel like Aaron Rodgers could be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL by the end of this offseason. Like, they could sign him to a big deal contract, like a big time contract, like 3-year, $150 million contract.
The problem is, like, is it about the money for him? Like, this is a guy that, like, fights with his family, his brother. Like, he seems like once he's got his feet dug in, like, he's going to stick on it, right? So that's going to be the interesting thing.
It does he force the last few seasons. Like, it's a 50-50 shot for me. He's done this thing over the last few seasons, but this time he does seem really pissed. He does seem really mad.
All right, guys. So let's do a quick roundtable. I want to hit the Giants real quick. I'm going to start because I'm going to say we're going to take an L this game because the Giants just love to ruin our lives at the end of every season. So I'm going to say Giants. Hutchinson.
I'll take Washington easily. Like, I just don't feel that. I feel they'll team up on Saquon, and if Daniel Jones is struggling or if he's not playing the best, that means they'll definitely lose. And I don't think this defense is good enough to stop this Washington offense. I feel like no matter if Ryan Fitzpatrick's starting, if Aaron Rodgers is starting, no, they're not going to be able to stop this offense. So I think Washington takes the dub.
This will be a loss because we'll be resting our starters.
I like it. I like it.
I still think we would try and go because of the playoff scheduling now, with it being only one team gets in, to the first round bye. I think we're gonna have to play.
Yeah, but I feel that
it'll already be decided.
I don't think Washington's gonna be that good.
The bye will already be decided, so it's like don't risk the injury.
I don't think it'll be. I don't think they're gonna be like a 13-3 team, dude. I don't see that.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not.
You're saying somebody else will already have it.
Yeah, but they could always like
Rams
fight for second place or third place.
Well,
they could just end up being fourth or fifth. I feel like if they're not in the bye, they should start their starters because they're fighting for another seed. They're fighting for a higher seed because if you get the higher seed, you get to play against the lower seed. That's just kind of how it works. So if they don't have
Hutch, you have us with like 6 wins in the course of just as many weeks.
No, he's got us. He had a split.
I'm just kidding.
split against Philly. I have you guys taking 2 over Dallas, and I have you guys taking 1 over the Giants. So that's 5.
4 out of 5 wins.
4 out of 5. 4 out of 5. Yeah.
Yeah. So all we need is a few more to make it a 13. I'm just giving you hell, man. No, that was fun.
This division just so weak. This division just kind of so mediocre.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
It's easy to beat up on.
I
honestly think it's interesting though because all the teams last year were actually bad. Like who was the winner of that division last year? Wasn't the winner
7-9?
7-9, Washington football
right?
team.
I think they could all hit 500 or over, but none of them are going to be like a 12-13 win team. It's going to be all kind of mediocre-ish teams. They're all going to be around the 500, and I think Washington's going to take it with like 10 wins, 10, 11 wins.
I like it. All right, gang. We've been on for an hour and 10 already, so I want to be respectful of everybody's time. And Hutchinson, really appreciate you joining us.
Absolutely.
Wait. We got a question.
Oh.
Ooh.
This is great. This is phenomenal. I love this question, actually.
Todd Gurley.
Mark loves it. Mark loves it.
Wait. Are we talking for NFC?
Absolutely not.
Right? We're
Unless you're
talking
going
about
to pay him.
NFC.
Unless you're going to pay him a quarter to come over. No.
But which team would he go to? So, all right, question for the guys. Any free agent players left that you buy into? So, real quick, roundtable, like as fast as we can go, let's talk about each position, or not each position, but let's all pick a position or a player for a team that would fit in the NFC East that you'd like to bring in from free agency. I can start. Yes. Oh, God damn it, you took mine. No, but I mean, sitting there looking at if any of one of you guys say a running back that takes away from Antonio Gibson, I'm going to freak out. So don't even go there. I know Mark wants to go there. Do not do it, Mark. Do not.
Todd Gurley, no. Don't do it.
So I'll be honest. I'm gonna kind of support Mark on this because
don't do it.
If Antonio Gibson goes down for whatever reason and he's got the toe issue, we don't have the guy that can carry the rock and be the lead guy.
Todd Gurley can't carry the rock.
But I think he can if he only needs to do it for a couple games.
He can carry it for 1.5 yards per carry. Like if you really want that, go ahead. But that is not an ideal situation in my opinion.
So I'm gonna pick somebody different then. I won't go Malik Hooker. I'll let you hit on that, Chase. But I'd love to see us bring in some additional pass rushing depth, like a Justin Houston, Olivia Vernon, like someone like that, just to be that edge guy, that veteran. To take some of the pressure and keep our guys, our 2 Ferraris and Montez Sweat and Chase Young healthy.
Well, according to this website I'm on, NFL trade rumors, Richard Sherman is still a free agent.
Yeah, but
Richard Sherman might not be playing.
I'll take Richard Sherman can I count that one?
Well, so
you can count that.
I'll take that one.
Richard Sherman is going to a bunch of trouble. I don't think he's playing.
Oh yeah, I don't think he is either. But
Sherman's
that video was scary though.
Horrifying.
That video is scary, man. Right, KJ Wright is a free agent.
Yeah,
that was gonna be the guy I went for.
Seattle.
KJ Wright. Yeah.
That would be crazy. And
then Chase, talk to us a little bit about Malik Hooker before we end off here, because I do want to get your insight on him.
Well, Malik Hooker is a ball hawk. That's what he was profiled at. He's been injury prone to an extent, but if you're going to give him a 1-year prove-it contract with the amount of space that Washington actually has with their salary cap right now, it would be worth it to pay him $6 million, $5 million, $4 million a year to come in and just try and get a few interceptions. Try and pick off Jalen Hurts multiple in a game, because that's already given that it's going to happen. It's just, can we have catches the ball on the defensive side? I think Malik Hooker is one of them. When it comes to Daniel Jones, that has multiple opportunities to catch interceptions if we have a guy that catches. Fuller's great. Fuller's great at coverage. Fuller's great at coverage. And our receivers are great at coverage. William Jackson's great at coverage, but we never really turned it into, turnovers. So sitting there and looking at it, Malik Hooker is one of our best opportunities to put him in third down situations and nickel coverages where we could actually put him in at free safety and capitalize off of some turnover on 3rd and 15, 3rd and 20s, even 3rd and 8s to an extent where they might end up throwing it long on a bomb. They run 4 guys underneath and then 1 guy running a stretch. So sitting there looking at it, I would love to get a ball hawk safety in there, which we have not had since, once again, second reference, John Taylor. I want that ball hawk on that defense side again. I miss it. I miss it so much. So much.
All right, man.
Yeah,
So I appreciate everybody hopping on with us. I want to make sure we hit a quick roundtable. I want to make sure people know where to find you. Hutchinson, we're going to start with you, man. I know you kicked off your site and stuff early on, but let's remind people where they can find you and talk about your site a little bit.
All right, so you guys can follow me on Twitter at TYFMNFL. I know it's hard to remember and say. Just think of the Young Fantasy Mind, TYFM, and then NFL as in the National Football League. It's a little hard to say and memorize. I have people struggle with it all the time, but to try to remember it. TYFMNFL. And then you can find my podcast, pretty much the Young Fantasy Mind Football Podcast, pretty much anywhere you find podcasts, Apple, Spotify, wherever. TheYoungFantasyMind.com is my website. You can find the podcast over there. You can find my rankings over there, and you can find my articles over there. There's only one up there now. It's on Jalen Hurts' fantasy football outlook for 2021. For my first few articles, going to be looking at the most confusing players, the most controversial players, and talking about their outlook for 2021. Those are going to be the first few things that I write about, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun ride. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for joining us. And Chase, we'll throw it over to you next.
Great time.
Oh, yeah, you guys can go check us out at joinourcircle_. Once again, that's joinourcircle_ over there on Twitter. I see Mark smiling up there because he's literally going to say 2 lines, and he's going to be so stoked after I get done with all mine. You guys can also go find my content over there at FF_intervention. I retweet all my stuff from joinourcircle_. But, yeah, FF_intervention, youtube.com/fantasyintervention. Big shout out to Fantasy Football Discussion over there on Facebook. You guys keep us working, keep us playing, and keep us entertained. Once again, if you guys are on Facebook, go check it out. Fantasy Football Discussion. There are 24,000 active members daily. Yes, that's daily on the site, asking questions, trying to get feedback. Love you guys. Big shout out to Fantasy Football Discussion over there on Facebook. You guys can also go check out our website content over there on fantasyintervention.com. Once again, that's fantasyintervention.com. I believe we have 3 articles coming out this week. We just launched our rankings as well. Very excited for Trevor, for Tom, and for Jordan to get the rankings out there into the public. So very excited about that. Go check out fantasyintervention.com. Go check out the rankings. And if you guys are looking to rank, I give everybody an opportunity. We want to help everybody get their name out there. We want to make sure that people have a platform. So if you're interested in ranking, we're just doing the top 200 for single quarterback dynasty leagues right now. We're going to expand to 2 quarterback leagues. We're going to expand to redraft here within the next month or so. So if you guys want to rank, please get in contact with us. You guys can go to fantasyintervention.com and go to join our circle. If you're interested in writing, ranking, or creating video content, we're here to help out. We're here to make sure that everybody gets an equal opportunity and to try to get a new platform. Meanwhile, last but not least,
Twitter, baby. You can find me at Twitter.
Yeah, just at Mark.
Just at Twitter. Mark's at Twitter. That's his handle.
But no, make sure you guys go check out Some Yards. I should be launching that this week. I'm going to try and get it up and running by Thursday. I've been kind of pushing myself to the limit as of right now. But at Some Yards, we're actually teaching kids with special needs how to play fantasy football. If you know anybody that has somebody that is related to somebody with special needs that wants to interact with people, that wants to be part of an organization, that wants to learn how to play fantasy football, get in contact with us at Some Yards. Send us a message. We should be up and running later this week.
All right, and you can find me at WhatGibbsFF, like Joe Gibbs, over there on Twitter, and we'll wrap it up with that. So, guys, I really appreciate it. This was great banter. This hour and 20 minutes felt like it was like 30 minutes. It flew by. It always does. And Hutchinson, really supporting everything you do, man. However we can help, let us know, and really
Appreciate
supportive of everything you're doing, man.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on. It was a blast. I was a little nervous because it wasn't exactly about fantasy football, and that's all I talk about. But it was a really fun time.
You held your own, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Have a good